There we are. We are live. A new episode of TigerBait Live after taking last week off due to more computer issues. Here's a little tip. If you need a new battery for your laptop or a camcorder or what have you, do yourself a favor and order the original manufacturer's battery. Don't go on Amazon and try and be cheap like me. Go to Dell, go to iMac, go to Apple Store, whatever. Same thing with your Canon cameras, whatever. So that's a pro tip. But we're back tonight. Got a lot to talk about. Certainly big news happened on Saturday with Will Wade being dismissed as the LSU basketball coach. Got a lot to discuss there. Men and women in the NCAA basketball tournament. Of course, LSU in Milwaukee on Friday, and the LSU women hosting on Saturday, Jackson State. Baseball with A&M this weekend. Stood fast and got a win over Tulane last night. Got a little crazy there at the end. But we've got all that, and plus big news from Brian Kelly on Monday. The amount of access we're getting for spring football is off the chart. We can touch recruiting. And so we're going to get Brian Kelly on Tuesday, and then spring football practice starts on Thursday, and we're going to have all that for you on TigerBait.com. So welcome in, buddy.
Good to see you. There's a lot of reputations that we all have in the media, but I have never heard you being perceived as being cheap. You always dress well.
I like to save a dollar.
You always have good equipment. You always have nice vehicles and homes. And so I don't think cheap is a word for you, but it did, and we had TV problems with the truck, so I was technically out of whack last week. But, man, it's just you got to multitask. I'm here. This is your show tonight, but Will Wade and that quick departure. I mean, it's almost like going to a golf tournament and you're competing and you call your wife and the family and say, I'm in second place. I'm coming home Saturday, Sunday. And she says, don't bother. I'm changing the locks in the house. I mean, it happened so fast. And, of course, he didn't get a chance to tell his team goodbye. We'll get into that. They are playing. Kevin Nickelberry, the interim coach. This is a crazy stat that I throw out here. But Tony Benford actually won 2 games in the postseason. Will Wade only because of this being the second time he's on the sidelines for the NCAA dance has only won 1 time. But interesting on that. Baseball, we'll get into A&M. Blake Money's not going to start on Friday night. We'll talk about that. Obviously, Kim Mulkey trying to get people out for Saturday, Monday. Not going to be easy as Morris is still banged up. And, Mike, that injury cloud that's been hanging around the city of Baton Rouge and the city of New Orleans still exists. And it's even, implications with baseball, with Milazzo, Javen Coleman, now Blake Money and others. So good to be with you. And just a crazy time that happened all so fast, like a car wreck.
Yeah, it's you asked me today, and other people said, man, did you see it coming like this? I said, no, I didn't think it was going to. Well, last Thursday, I started compiling a list of possible names, but I didn't think it was going to happen Saturday. I figured it was going to happen after the postseason was over with and they were eliminated from the tournament. And then I believe he was done. But I think what happened was, and this is, I really believe this, is that they a lot of people say, why didn't you just let him finish it out? Because I think by looking at that NOA, that they were basically LSU and Scott Woodward were looking at it and saying, you know what, they really went after Will Wade here, and they want him more than anything else. And the last thing we want to do is, when we're trying to get the least penalty and the best deal we can get, is to thumb their nose in the fact that we're going to go ahead and get this NOA from him and then allow him to coach in the tournament. So I think that was a no-brainer for them. But now the problem is and I'm seeing some of the questions already in the chat. Well, who are you going to get? And and I was compiling that list. I've seen some people put out hot boards. I've been doing hot boards for 20 years for coaching searches. Yeah. This one is, you can put out names, and it's kind of been that way under Woodward anyways. But really, this one is you have no idea who you can get, who you can attract. If the normal contract for a new basketball coach at a school like LSU is 5 years, what are you going to do now? If you're wanting to hire somebody in the next month, how do you bring them on board? Particularly a guy like that Woodward wants to hire. He wants guys that have been successful, have a track record. So that's probably somebody who's coaching a team in a tournament right now. And that coach probably has a very good team coming back for next year. So how do you convince him to come to this program where you, like me, are convinced they're going to get 2 years?
Well, I don't know what they're going to get.
I think they're going to get – there's no way they're going to get less than 2 years. And by the way, and in fact, I know LSU believes they're getting 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, but I was going to say, it's hard to try and hire somebody not knowing what the sanctions are going to be. By the way, in case you did not go through it like a fine-tooth comb like Mike and I did and everybody else in the media should have done, football, 3 particular instances, $180,000 basically to Vidal Alexander, his dad, and getting paid by John Paul Funes with the Our Lady of Lake scandal. Secondly was Odell Beckham Jr. giving out $2,000, $800, $500, $200, and I don't know what the last one was, but a couple of thousand. I guess you could add it up. But anyway, I wonder if Burrow got $800. That wouldn't surprise me because remember, Joe got totally shafassed and went on one of those shows half drunk, and he said, "Hell yeah, I took."
Well, that was the show with the Pardon My Take guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next morning, which was really a great interview. I enjoyed
that was super. That was the second one, and then the third one was an allegation and a violation by Coach O, going a little early, meeting a prospective player and his coach in the coach's office when he was a junior. And so I think football is going to get the slap on the wrist, but I really, for Will Wade and Bill Armstrong, there's no doubt there's going to be some show calls. We were talking before the show how many years. And as far as the probations, I mean, look, how do you entice a guy at this point?
You got to give him a 7-year deal.
But I'm just saying, we don't know how bad it's going to be.
Or you give him a 5-year deal and you say for each year that we're not eligible for postseason play, we're going to add a year. So if they say you get a 1-year ban, well, then the guy gets a year added. So he has a 6-year deal.
Yeah.
And if it's 2 years, give him 7. And I think that's logical. So. And
the other thing we mentioned, Mike.
And then there's the other people that think, we talked about this today. Because, a lot of people would spin in their head like, well, maybe just get a guy to coach a team short term. Will Coach Brady do it? Or, people want a Van Chancellor of the situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're going to have to do that. But when you look at all the coaching vacancies of who, there's some very good schools that pay good money that are looking for coaches that don't have the problem that LSU has. So that's a problem for Scott Woodward.
I was just going to add, everybody knew all along, as this has been hanging over everybody's head, that Scott Woodward did not hire Will Wade, and Will Wade is kind of different. Makeup, personality, brand, attitude. I mean, the young people at LSU, let's march for Will Wade. I'll fight for Will Wade. And then, of course, I saw on your site today, this afternoon, about 450 replies. 65% checked the box. Yes, he deserved to get fired. So it's really been a divisive thing.
And by the way, I think some of those guys, if they could reverse their vote, the more that they know about it, they probably change it and say, yeah, they made the right move. But
I'm saying that all of that is in one complicated formula. And so I don't know how you hire, but Woody had a short list all along. The question is, will he be able to get his guy? They're not going to pay Will Wade. I think they're going to fire him with cause. And so we'll see what kind of dollar. But how do you go in and get a Tony Bennett or a guy like that, who is the Woodward type of coach, to entice him to come
right.
here?
These guys have recruited well. They got good teams coming back next year. It'd be one thing if there was no issues and a good majority of these players would stick around. How many of these guys are going to be left? They're all going to leave.
Yeah.
But
you do have the transfer portal now, which can bring in players. But it was so sad. I just can't imagine.
And then in that transfer portal, when you're going up against a bunch of other schools who are vying for those same transfer portal kids, when they say, well, you can go to LSU, that's one of your options, but you're not going to be able to play in postseason next year.
Well, here's the other thing that I don't know if people have actually realized. But with all this hanging over Will Wade's head, and they've been watching closely, and one of the things they're going to nail him on is that he didn't really turn those records over on a timely basis, and that really PO'd him. But he still, Mike, with all that hanging over his head, is able to entice this load of players coming in here, 2 or 3 5-stars, a 4-star. Devin Ree is already decommitted, and I'm sure the rest will follow suit. Adam Miller never going to play for LSU. I mean, this is catastrophic as far as the basketball program. We've been there before. Last thing I'll add, lack of institute. The NCAA held up the L, not for the LSU, for the lack of institutional control, and that's what's scary.
By the way, have learned that when you read in that notice of allegations the alleged hush money for the fiance of one of the players, that was actually when he was at VCU.
I was going to say VCU.
That was actually it wasn't when he was at LSU. So what does that tell you about what the NCAA has been doing? Yeah. They're going after Will Wade.
Yeah.
They went so far back to his previous employment. You know, they probably went back to his Clemson days for all we know. Mm-hmm. I will say this. I know every media member in town has been wanting to get Will Wade to make a comment or come on the show, and, of course, he's not doing any. But I did run into him yesterday at a lunch spot here in town and talked to him for a good while. And I could tell he's down. I could tell he's –
Sure.
He's got a home in Chattanooga. I think he's going to, end up residing up there. But I think he said some things before, like he wants his day in court, and he believes some of that stuff's overblown, and he's going to fight it, and he's got to. You looked it up before we went live. What's the longest show cause ever? You found a guy that got 15 years, but usually the max tends to be 5. Mm-hmm. So, if he can, finagle his way to where he's only got 3, he's only 39 years old, might end up, getting an opportunity to coach again somewhere, or is he going to be relegated to the NBA or a professional league somewhere? I don't know, but
Kelvin Sampson got 5 years. Bruce Pearl got 3 years. Obviously, it looks like they're going to nail. Do you think they try to make an example of Will Wade and Bill Armstrong? And this is the interesting thing that so many of the LSU fans are upset about. If LSU was a blue blood in basketball, this thing would have been treated totally different.
Oh, yeah. You've heard it too. Everybody don't like him. Only people that like him are LSU fans. I think probably if you polled the media that actually cover the beat, and I'm going to make up a number. Let's say there's 20 guys that actually cover LSU men's basketball. I think probably 17 or 18 like him. Mm-hmm. There's only 2 or 3 that probably don't. But everybody else likes him. And so it's just unfortunate. I mean, he brought a lot of happiness to LSU fans. The basketball team was a bore. They were lost in the wilderness for a long time. Trent Johnson, that was a waste of time. Johnny Jones was a waste of time. None of those guys moved the needle. Will Wade absolutely moved the needle, and it's unfortunate. So, I don't know. Looking back on it, I said it on my board the other day, and any of you guys of a certain age, well, you would know it because you probably had him on your show back in the day. He was hosting radio shows before he passed. Bob Broadhead, mm-hmm. A guy who a lot of people viewed Broadhead as talented and moved the needle a little bit, but then the stuff happened that happened, and he lost his job. Wrote the book. But I wonder if Will Wade's kind of that way, where a lot of people really liked him, saw some good things that he did, but just because of the way it went down, he just couldn't, he didn't do it right. And
Bob's the reason, one of the reasons I'm in radio. Bob and a guy by the name of Norman Nasty were doing a show, and they messed it up. They said that LSU won the national championship in 1958, which they did.
I never even read that book. Did you?
And said that Billy Cannon made the run that year. Of course, I called up and I talked to the radio station general manager, and he said, "Why don't you intern for those guys?" Well, anyway, I interned, gave them a bunch of stats and facts, behind the scenes kind of producer thing.
Well, that's how it happens.
And then Broadhead got the AD job at Southeastern, and of course, he said, if you can do a show with Norman Nasty for 6 months, you got your own show. And that's basically how it all worked out. But, yeah, Bob Broadhead You got to love him when he said, I got to wear my bulletproof vest when I go to that board of supervisors.
Was that the first sports talk show in this town?
No, Tim Brando started it before. So Tim Brando started it originally.
And there was nothing before him other than pregame.
I mean, they may have had a little bit, but Brando really was the pioneer in WIBR.
So IBR, and then you had J-Bo. Okay.
But anyway, back to the conversation. It's a little scary with the lack of institutional control. It's a little scary when you have football and basketball. And we know that there's a very close relationship with Mark Emmert and Scott Woodward. You know they had to discuss this before Woody ever came over from A&M. That was hanging over their head. It's been hanging over their head for 4.5, 5 years, whatever. So interesting times, a lot of other stuff. Baseball this weekend with A&M. Need to win at least 2. Would love to see a sweep. Kim Mulkey wants you out there as she needs some help Saturday and Monday if they can take care of business. And the men, 6:20 on TBS with Hoops. I have no earthly idea what they're going to play like, but I think Xavier Pinson.
And then people are going to be doing the whole
flipping.
Yeah, because you got to watch baseball.
Well, I watch one on the phone and one on the TV, but I was going to say, I think they go as far as Xavier Pinson and Darius Days take them.
Guys, do me a favor. Obviously, we've been long-winded. We're 16 minutes in, and I haven't said please like, share. But please do that. Hit the like button. It helps our algorithm. If you're enjoying the show, like. Please share to your social media if you're on Facebook, your Twitter, whatever. It's very much appreciative. And if you're watching us on YouTube, which we believe is the best format to watch us, but we do stream Facebook and YouTube. But hit the subscribe button and notification bell every time we go live, every time we load up interviews. And by the way, it's really going to be, as far as new content and our own content in big numbers next week, because we're going to be doing practice reports, our video footage from practice. All that stuff is going to be uploaded to YouTube. So, thanks to my good buddy Bart Smokey. He'll be sponsoring our practice reports. But we're going to have photo galleries, on the premium side at TigerBait, analysis, and a lot more. So you definitely want to be tuned in next week. And it all starts Thursday. So it's nonstop. But, of course, we're brought to you this show each and every week by Pride Roofing. Big thanks to Mike Faraday, Alex Martinez, and the job they do over at Pride Roofing, growing bigger and bigger by the day. And, of course, they continue to offer the free promo where if you call them for a free roofing inspection, they're going to pay for you to have TigerBait Premium free for a year. They're footing the bill for it, and you cannot beat it. Give them a call. If you think you're on the end of a lifespan of your roof, maybe you need 2 or 3 years, but you just want to know what it's going to run you, give them a call. Commercial or residential, any type of roof, they are the ones to call. Give them a call, 855-PRIDE-16. And they encourage you, by the way, if you're in Albany, swing by their location right there on Florida Boulevard and say hello to the whole crew.
Job well done is a job done with pride and by pride, and we cannot reiterate enough that the people that we have helped get over to Pride Roofing are so happy. Had a buddy of mine, JP, that works with me on the TV station, and I told him about Pride Roofing. Oh, I got a buddy of mine. We went to school with him, give him a chance. Well, anyway, the guy screwed up, so he's got to call Pride tomorrow morning. Because they take care of it from A to Z. Residential, commercial, metal roofs, just with the new acquisition of Crown Metals. It's really opened up their versatility on what they can bring to the table for you and other roofing companies. They got roofing companies all around the state now trying to get involved with them because of what Crown Metals brings to the
that's
table.
A great story, too. They're right there on Florida Boulevard in Albany, and they were doing and had a little relationship with the metal company across the street. And next thing you know, they buy them. And so they're kind of like this way. They walk out their front door, they can see the metal company right up the road. So it's a fabulous business based in Albany. Of course, Mike Faraday, LSU grad, Broadmoor High grad right here in Baton Rouge, and just the best people for you to deal with. So,
by the way, bad time to meet somebody at a wake, but of course we know Mike's mom passed about a month ago, and I had a chance to meet Tom, who was a walk-on fullback. played with Hodson and those guys.
Number
in the
47, played in the Hall of Fame Bowl.
Yeah, and so good to meet him. Good to meet all of the family. Mike, Alex, of course, the two wives, Tammy and Yessie, in the Baton Rouge area, 225-275-2041. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. And just like Brian Kelly and Kim Mulkey and Jay Johnson are all going to bring pride back to LSU athletics and those major sports, I think you can't go wrong with Pride Roofing.
All right, let me roll through a bunch of these comments, guys. Like we said, we're 20 minutes in. I haven't nailed one of them.
Don't tell us about your love life tonight.
Yeah, Mo Hippa, let's go. Mark Chambers, been a wild couple of days. Kenneth Martin, in your opinion, who is Scott looking at to take Wade's spot? That's anybody's guess. I tell you what, obviously him and Stephanie Rempe have done an amazing job on the hires they've done so far. With this scenario that he's got to deal with and who he's got to attract and all the competition with all the new openings, good programs, and good conferences looking for jobs, if he's able to track a big-name guy with this current dilemma, then he's really batting 1,000. So we're going to see how this plays out. Christian, recruiting question, why does it seem like LSU isn't even the running for Tackett Curtis? Not blaming anyone currently on staff, but that's just unacceptable. He's been crystal balled to Ohio State. I think they were probably upset at Manning High School that LSU did not offer early. They wanted him to come to camp. He went and made a bunch of visits around the country and didn't participate in anybody's camps. And but he's got a slew of offers. But look, we're going to see what happens. I know I talked to one of my good buddies, runs an Ohio State site, and he told me he's going to be coming to Louisiana to see Tackett. So we're going to see how this plays out. But I think he's a good football player. But I will say this. I have wanted to see him at camp line up with the other linebackers and be there on a day where there's a bunch of elite players and see how he does in the 7-on-7 drills and this and that.
But the X factor in all what you just said is this: NIL. If LSU comes to the table late, like we saw with Alabama on Danny Lewis and other things,
Well,
NIL, look, I mean, NIL is a factor now.
I'm just a little leery of kids who don't participate in camps.
Yeah, I understand.
You know who else didn't do it?
Who?
Hootie Jones.
Yeah. LSU got the grace of God on that one. I think you'll trade Jamal Adams any day.
And I'm not saying that Tackett's running scared because there was a different scenario last year, obviously, because the thing lifted with COVID and guys were finally able to go out and visit. So I'm not saying that that's the dilemma, but my whole thing with him was I want to see a spring evaluation period. Obviously, new staff. They don't have a relationship with him, so they want to get to know him. But look, if he's going to make a decision now, what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
But I hope he does go to camp. We filmed him in the playoffs at East Feliciana, and his tape looked really good to me. And obviously, look at his offer sheet. He's got offered by everybody in the country. But it's a different animal when you're LSU. It's easy for other schools to offer in Louisiana kids because they can say, oh, but we want you to come to camp. Don't commit yet. Whereas if LSU extends an offer to a Louisiana kid, that's there's no playing games with it.
You can't go back on that.
No, it's so. And LSU does the same thing. They can offer kids in Washington State and Utah and everywhere else because they know. But those are all trial balloons.
But you've always said, Mike Scarborough's always said this: don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do. Is he going to camp at LSU? Is he going to make an official visit? That'll tell us a lot more on Tackett Curtis.
I will say that, the visitors that have been there have really enjoyed the new staff. And, we've got a story right on the front page of TigerBait right now on Jaden Osbury. And, of course, his little brother signed with Auburn. So, what's Jaden going to do? I do know that he really liked Coach House. And, of course, Coach House is, what I wonder if there's are there advantages if you're a linebacker and your coach that coaches linebackers is also the defensive coordinator?
Absolutely. because you know that if you're sucking and you need to get and watch more tape or do this or take a better angle, he's going to personally be teaching you. So
But he's also,
I think it's an advantage. This is a guy that was in the pros, and so what do all of them want to do? They want to go play on Sundays.
yep.
So I do think also Austin, his brother, probably wanted to get away from all the controversy and the mess, of course, with Verge and everything else. And, you can't blame a guy. He's been around LSU and U-High.
But I will say
all his
this,
life.
depending on how things roll out here, I'm kind of hearing some rumblings. Don't be surprised if Jaden doesn't leave too.
Okay, well, it's still early.
Yeah. Chance Babin, I feel like we have a new coach search every few months lately. Yeah, but you got a whole new roster, and that's why, despite what's going on with basketball and the notice of allegations, there still is a ton of excitement. I mean, the Mulkey fever is continuing to snowball. We're going to be covering it Saturday and Monday, and so baseball, of course. You said Blake Money's not going to pitch.
Blake Money will not pitch Friday.
Wrist problem.
They left the door open, possible for later on in the weekend, but they really have been tight-lipped about that. You could see Ty Floyd go Friday night. You could probably see Mikhail Hilliard go, and then there's some other guys. LSU 2.92 on the ERA, hitting 319, 26 home runs, and they've given up 10. But they've made 20.
He's not even looking at notes.
29. Well, I get my stuff before, and I just memorized it. Come on. And I got to tell you, 29 errors, and that's something that Jay Johnson wants to clean up. But guess what? 7, 6, and 4, Doty, and of course Jordan Thompson.
Who's the other guy that's good at numbers like that? Is it Steinle?
Well, I know Steinle now. Steinle's much younger than me, but bottom line is what I was going to say is the three infielders, Merrifield at third base, Jordan Thompson at shortstop, and Cade Doty have made 17 of the 29 errors, so I think they're going to clean that up.
Kenny Russell, always one of our best here on the show and a subscriber to TigerBait. Big thanks to Kenny. Mike, do you believe Kelly and staff did enough to potentially win over Tyler Steen? Of course, that's the Vanderbilt offensive lineman who visited late last week. And I know his visit went very well. I think the LSU coaching staff, I'm told, feel very, very good about where they stand right now. But Alabama does get the last visit before he's going to make a decision. And, it's one of those deals where maybe he actually enjoyed LSU better when it's all said and done. But what's the NIL situation?
And remember this is interesting, and I think you're going to hear this moving forward as we look into Brian Kelly as a recruiter. They are pushing very hard the whole package, the student athlete. If you want to smoke the wacky tobacco, not go to class, I'm not going to name anybody, you're not going to make it here. This is not a fit for you. They want you to be responsible. They're changing the culture.
I think Orgeron would have been more lax than anybody on that, the wacky tobacco.
Well, I don't know if they're going to change
whereas
it.
Kelly's going the opposite direction.
Well, but academic-wise, you're going to have every opportunity to graduate, and that is going to be a priority. And because if you're disciplined in the classroom, generally you're more disciplined on the football field and a higher IQ. Obviously, you'll go Vandy and all that. Look, Steen, he's been at Vandy, so he's got an emphasis on academics. Alabama is going to say, hey, guy, you want to play for a championship, and we're going to give you X amount of dollars, and they're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 NIL deals. Interesting to see what him and his dad decide.
And I still believe that one of the remaining spots that LSU has open, I think they're going to be another quarterback. I believe it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Kenny Russell, LSU can still be successful in basketball despite the future sanctions. I think they can too. The problem is that Woodward's going to have to work his magic and give the same – look, I'm sure when he talked to Brian Kelly with the Our Lady of the Lake stuff and Vidal Alexander and all that, he had to, probably spend a little bit of his time making his pitch, what they're looking at, how they're dealing with it. But you're going to have to do that in a much bigger way with a future basketball coach. And he got it done with Brian Kelly. And so can he do it again?
You want to hear a crazy stat? Kenny? 2 teams got notice of allegations in 2019. And guess who they are? They're number 1 seeds. Kansas, who did this to the NCAA, and Arizona, who fired Sean Miller. He was on tape offering X amount of dollars to a recruit. They fired him. They're already back. Now,
Buddy's always wanted to do that on his radio show, but no one was watching.
well, no, I'm just saying, Kansas did. Not only did they get lack of institutional control, they gave Self a lifetime contract. But my point is that the only problem, it might be apples and oranges, because I think LSU is going to get hit a little bit tougher than Arizona was. And Kansas, because it was a blue blood, as we talked about earlier, they're going to get preferential treatment, just like Carolina and Duke. Coach K won more postseason games than anybody. And you know what? If you think he's squeaky clean, Nick Saban's squeaky clean.
Yeah. Chance Babylon. Baylor got great coaches in football and men's basketball after worse scandals. So did Penn State.
Yeah.
And so,
it's
and by the way, if you said, for months, I'm like, who, like, everybody's thinking Scott Drew's gettable. But I don't know that Scott Drew and Mulkey jive. So,
I don't think that would happen again.
But everybody thinks they can go get Scott Drew.
Yeah.
But, Baylor's building a new arena.
Yeah.
$180 million. Mark Chambers said he shared. Big thanks, Mark. Appreciate you sharing our show to your social media.
Chambers, Frenchie's got a big following.
Yep.
Almost as big as Carl the Cat.
Yeah, Rick Kelly, getting Coach Brady would be a great idea for the short term. Have you talked to Coach Brady?
I have not talked. I had him on, but I've not talked to him.
I bet you he's fielded more calls.
Well, that's why I didn't call him.
Because there's parallels with him, right? It's not just that he's there courtside, but he had to take the job in a similar situation. And I joked the other day, and I almost sent him a screen grab. I said, well, this is going to be your team next year, and I was having fun. Chico Potts Jr., Jamal Wolf Jr., Charlie Thompson Jr., Salee Mance Jr., and that's all the guys that Brady had early on.
Well, and if you remember him and Kermit, and Brady was such a hard, tough guy, and Kermit and him both tell this story, and they laugh about it, but every time Brady called a meeting, another guy or two walked out and said, I'm not going to play for you. Kermit finally took him aside and said, John, you can't call any more meetings. We're going to have any players. So, but
someone mentioned Kermit Davis in the chat earlier as somebody to go after.
Yeah, well.
Kermit Davis loved his time here,
Yeah,
by the way.
Kermit Davis is a really cool guy, but I think that you're going to probably have somebody with a little bit more of a track record. Also, he's had some baggage with the NCAA going way back as well.
Every basketball coach. The ones who haven't had baggage.
Oh yeah,
because they didn't do what Will Wade should have done. You're supposed to always have an assistant coach as a buffer, so you can throw him on the bus and say, "I had no idea he was doing that."
Well, there's no doubt it left a lot to be desired, but listen, it will get better. Like a dummy, I was telling people in January,
and it was Frenchie that said, "Go after Kermit Davis."
But look, I was telling in January. Remember, I was going like, Tiger fans, you're gonna love 2022, and so far it's been a pretty rough start in this first quarter, whether it's the stock market or any of the other impertinent things. I'm not going to get into the Ukraine situation, all the other craziness around this world, but you just got to hang in there, Tiger fans.
Hal Jubin, it was VCU and LSU and the NCAA knew about it already. The whole thing is a joke and a total witch hunt. Look, there's a lot of people that, and I think that's why Will Wade's a little unique. Usually if a situation like this where the program is on thin ice and might be bad for several years, usually the entire fan base would turn on a guy and say, I don't ever want to see him back here again. But I think it's a weird deal in it. I mean, where people just, they know that he didn't do right. They know that, but they still like him. Well, and look, Orgeron left the place but there's still everybody likes Orgeron too. I mean, most people do.
But the hypocrisy of the whole thing, Mike, and I've never heard.
Where's Dale Brown? When Dale Brown left the program the way he did, how many people were still defending that?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the hypocrisy of the whole thing is this. Zion Williamson was a recruit. And on tape, once again, just like this same thing with Wade being on tape, was a Kansas assistant and The stepdaddy of Zion Williamson was on tape saying we need $1 million to come to Kansas. He ended up going to Duke. Now, there was some agents and some other people that were supposedly had a deal with Zion, and they went to court and fought all this. Remember, they investigated Duke, and trust me, they look at different glasses when you look at Duke and Kansas and North Carolina and the Blue Bloods and all of them, Kentucky, all of them, you can't see anything. But boy, all of a sudden, you want to read something, you get to the fine print, that's what you're looking at with Wade, because he was sloppy, Mike. And there is this natural, I want to get you, and you actually made a point that I had not heard, and you even mentioned there's jealousy because this guy wasn't actually a bona fide player, and you think some of the coaches resent that.
I've heard everything. They don't like him because he didn't cheat the way they cheated, or how dare he cheat? We're the only ones that can cheat. You know, what I mean, heck, I remember the press conference like it was yesterday. I mean, what was the exact quote? You probably remember it, where he said, I'm recruiting against the big guys. I'm going for the players. I'm not going to say, you know, I'm going to go head to head for the type of players that you got to, you know, win champ. And he did. And so that's part of it. Now, yeah, I heard someone say, well, that basketball coaches don't like him because he was never a basketball player.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Well, and listen.
I mean, you're really reaching. So, and then I'm like, well, that didn't make sense. Did all the football coaches in the NFL hate Jim Mora because he wasn't ever a player? I mean, Jim Mora is one of the most liked guys in the history of the NFL.
But here's the question, Mike. They suspended Javonte Smart, and they went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and yet they reinstated him, and he played. He got back on the team and played. And so a lot of hypocrisy, but the fact that nobody ever mentions the Zion Williamson thing just because he went to Duke really irritates the living hell out of most Tiger fans.
Rick Kelly, Mike, crazy question, suggestion here, but the next men's basketball coach is already at LSU, Kim Mulkey.
Well, look, from a technical X's and O's standpoint, I'm going to say some things right now that would piss off Will Wade. They're better in the half-court offense, and they're appreciably better on inbounds plays. And that's one of the things that did aggravate me about Coach Wade this year. He did not get these guys. They were playing street ball, Wade dribbling too much, inbounds, fouls, stupid fouls. Guys, if you have 3 fouls and you want to play, don't do that for 4th foul or 5th foul.
You know, but how you know, I'm sure.
But they kept making the same mistakes, Mike.
At Tennessee, when they would have coaching searches, how many times did people bring up Pat Summitt for the men's job?
Yeah.
You know, or Gino at UConn. You know, whatever. I mean, I would it be fun to see Kim Mulkey wearing her butterfly jacket on the sideline of a
She's a trailblazer, but look, Gino Auriemma has switched over, and he does a great job being the male coach at UConn in the women's game for many, many years, and legendary. But I don't think that's feasible. And I think right now you want to see Kim Mulkey do her thing, and that's going to be invariably get LSU to a Final Four and hopefully win a national championship. But I understand the comment.
I'm going back and reading some of the comments. So when we were talking about how you got your start in radio, Carl the Cat says, "Damn, Buddy, you're old." And then Mark Jett says, "Before Buddy, they were communicating with Morse code."
I don't mind all that, you know. I'm still.
I love giving Lynn Rollins heck. He said something the other night. I'll text him during the broadcast, and then he'll. One time he read it on the air. You know.
I had been on today, and I had 2 or 3 people text me during the show asking Ben, please ask Lynn why he's still wearing the mask. And, of course, Ben and I had a good laugh about that. But I'm not quite there with Lynn. But, hey, listen.
You and Lynn, regardless of even if y'all the same, y'all are both like y'all's ability to remember facts and numbers is staggering to me. Yeah, everybody's saying go get Scott Drew. That's just not going to happen.
No. Oil and water with him and Kim.
I'm telling you right now that's. We all know I wanted to come home, all that stuff. Believe me, Scott Woodward seized the day. He seized the moment. Baylor winning that men's national championship made it possible for Woodward to get it.
That's right.
Let's see. Let me scroll down. Hal Jubin says, what about Calvin Sampson?
Older coach, as I said, and I was looking at show calls, he got a 5-year show cause. Of course, Bruce Pearl got a 3-year show cause. And we just talked about the 2 teams that are number 1 seeds, Kansas and Arizona, as early as 3 years ago in 19, both of them getting show causes. So depending on who you get and obviously the sanctions from the NCAA, look, we all know basketball is a quicker fix than football. Football, you need about 55 to 60 players, all right? You got 85, but you can get by with 55 or 60 because you need 2 deep across the board, scout team and all that. Basketball, man, you get 3 stars, 3 role players, and 2 guys off the bench. You get 7 or 8. You can play with that rotation. And so I think we just have to be patient as to, look, it's not going to be like the search for Brian Kelly or Jay Johnson or Kim Mulkey, and I got to tip my hat. You on top of all 3 of those.
Okay, American Patriot, thank you for the super chat, big time. How bad did OG Jr. hurt the football program? I'm assuming he's meaning OBJ.
Yeah.
Hurt the football program. What did you think the outcome could be? Everyone hit the like button. Thank you. I don't think that's going anywhere. I don't think that means he'll. Let me ask you this. Let's say he wasn't doing the idiotic thing and passing out $100 bills. Let's say after the game was over with, he had a big room at Dickie Brennan's and bought them all porterhouse steaks that night.
Well, it's actually, if you read into it, he gave 2, one of them got 800 and the other one got 500 on the sidelines. I think it was Burrow and Jets Jefferson because I saw.
The game's over with. The season is over.
But he went to the club, and that's where he gave the other 2. So he gave it to 4 players, 2 on the field after the game, 2 at the club that night.
Okay. Now, were any of those guys have any eligibility left?
That, of course, all of that is blacked out as far as the players.
Okay. I can if they had eligibility left,
they'd have to give it back, the money back.
Okay, but if they were all guys like Burrow, and when the clock hit 0, they were done, the NCAA can go pound sand.
Yeah, I think football is minimal compared to.
But the look of it in the venue that night looked crappy.
Yeah, it did.
It was just dumb. Dwayne Official, Mike, do you think Kelly is the closer that they say he is? I think he is. Just from what I was picking up in December. Look, there were some guys there in December that were like, man, I'm not signing. I don't know who my position coach is going to be. I don't know who my coordinator is going to be. There was some real hand-wringing. And when they came in for that official visit weekend and they met with Coach Kelly, it was over. They were all in. So, and no, they weren't being told, this is who I've got. Keep it quiet. They just said, we trust him. We're all in.
I heard a story this last week or 2, and it reminded me of Saban. They were talking about Brian Kelly has a folder, Mike, on all these recruits, all the way down to the cousins, the nephews, the uncles. I mean, that's the way you got to do it, folks. You never know who is going to be involved in the signing decision, and especially now, as we know with NIL moving forward. But I will just say this, attention to detail and the character and the behavioral problems and the culture, all of that stuff is changing in a positive way, I think. And guess what? The guys that were there before, the Mike Jones, the Keyshawn Bouttes, the Miles Brennans, all those guys, they're loving it because this is the way you're supposed to do. The coach is supposed to dictate how you act on and off the field. You draw a line, you cross the line, bye-bye. Everybody else is all in. I think there's a lot of bonding, and I think that they are setting themselves up to play with a lot of P&V. I think LSU's going to have a chip on their shoulder this year.
Bart Smokey, until recently, Lynn Rollins' phone would not take a text. That's true. He had a...
Well, he doesn't have Twitter, and neither do I.
I'm sure every time he went into the phone store, to pay his bill or something, they'd say, that thing's not going to be a part of our network much longer. It's not even going to work.
By the way, appreciate Bart and Tiger Shark and all the people out there that make this show possible and help you defray some of the cost. And Bart, we'll get you your money's worth. I will be wearing the sunglasses. I can't wait to do those practice reports because
I can't wait to get out there.
Well, you and I are going to, what we always do, folks, is that Mike says, look, I'm going to be looking O-line today. I said, all right, I'll go D-line. I mean, we don't look at the same stuff. We don't sit there and chew the fat and say, hey, Bags, or hey, Prince, or hey, all those guys out there. We're out there working, and we're going to give you the tidbits and the nuggets that everybody likes.
We want to talk about our other big sponsors, Tony Freeman with Assurance Financial. And you want to talk about timely to talk about her right now. The Fed raising interest rates today, and we're told there could be multiple more interest rates in the next year at various times. So they're going up. So if you're thinking of buying a home, refinancing your current mortgage, but haven't found a lender you can trust, let me tell you about Tony Freeman with Assurance Financial right here in Baton Rouge. She's a dear friend of mine and someone who many of my friends have used for their mortgage needs repeatedly. Her knowledge and over 25 years of experience in the mortgage industry is unsurpassed. She offers a wide range of knowledge on home loan products, whether you're a first-time home buyer, ready to buy a new home, or you just want to explore your refinance options. Tony can guide you through your next mortgage experience. You can feel confident you're making the best financial decision with Tony as your guide. And not only is Tony a huge LSU fan, but Assurance Financial is a proud partner of LSU Athletics. Give her a call today. Call Tony at 225-239-7150. Again, 225-239-7150. And please, tell her you heard about her right here on TigerBait.com. NMLS number 104765. Equal housing opportunity 70876. And we love Tony Freeman and Assurance Financial here at TigerBait.com.
They are part of the LSU network. I don't know, a week or so ago, I was in the car listening to one of the broadcasts, and of course their commercial came on. Beautiful smile, classy, dots all the I's, crosses all the T's. You will get a comfort zone dealer with Tony like nowhere else, and she is truly the consummate professional.
By the way, back to Bart sponsoring the practice reports. I was just blown away Monday. Again, what I mentioned earlier in the show. We're getting the best media access we have ever gotten ever. It's particularly in the internet age where.
Well, before the internet. I mean, after the internet.
Yeah.
Donardo let us go out there, and that's another story.
You think if the internet existed under Curly Hallman, he would have let y'all out there?
Oh no, Curly us out at the end when he was on the hot seat.
Yeah. But yeah, we're getting all three coordinators, and all of them are excellent. Polian especially, and then his daddy's coming to speak to the at the coaches clinic. Bill Polian, the famous Bill Polian. But we're getting the normal we've gotten under the last four coaches. 4 periods, 20 minutes minimum. We're getting 2 full practices. We're getting the 3 coordinators, and then, of course, your spring game and the normal post-practice press conferences with Brian Kelly. The first one being Tuesday, and then they get started on Thursday. So you're really going to want to subscribe to TigerBait. We're going to have everything for you. Video, photo galleries, written practice reports, verbal practice reports. We'll be answering questions. Of course, we'll be doing a show here every week as well. But go to TigerBait once you finish watching the show. Go subscribe. Choose the annual package. I think you'll be very happy if you're an LSU fan. You're going to get our newsletters, our practice reports, all of our recruiting updates. And if you're an LSU fan, I think you'll enjoy the site. And we really want you to be a part of our TigerBait community. We got a great group of guys on our message boards that go back and forth and have really intelligent LSU sports conversation. And I'm there day and night as well. So come subscribe to TigerBait.com.
In case you missed it, just a couple of updates. George Takis, the big tight end that was at Notre Dame. Mike, his position coach at Notre Dame, ended up getting the offensive coordinator job over at Boston College, and he had a couple other Notre Dame former teammates that went over there. So he announced he's going to Boston College. Dayton Daniels, the grad transfer quarterback from Arizona State. If you've been traveling, everybody went to Colorado and New Mexico to ski and all that. If you missed that, he's coming in. He will be available for spring football. So LSU with 4 quarterbacks in the room. And I'll ask you, you got any updates from Walker and Jamie about what's he looking like and what's his health?
No, I
right
haven't.
now?
I haven't. That's just got to take time. I was told 6 to 8 weeks, and but I mean, heck, when he broke his fibula last September, he was back at the end of what, October?
Yeah, quick.
I mean, he was there for the playoffs.
But this was the thumb, the last one.
Yeah.
So,
But I think their goal is, and I'm pretty sure that this is what they've talked about with Coach Kelly, is they want to get him in 4 games and they want to keep the red shirt. So that's why you bring in Jaden Daniels, and then we're going to go through spring, and then we're going to see if they maybe use another one of these open spots for another quarterback. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, I mean, this is I got friends, family getting mad at me. We want to hear from you. Like, man, we got Kim Mulkey and the women's team is like having 2 men's basketball teams. That's how much excitement she brings.
yeah.
So we're doing something we've never done before, covering the women. You got Jay Johnson excitement there. A&M first SEC series this weekend. You got a women's hosting the first 2 rounds here. So you got Ohio State, Jackson State. Who else is in town?
I forget who Ohio State's playing. They're the 6 and they're playing 11. But Ohio State's a really good team. They play at 1:10 on Saturday. LSU playing around 4. If you want to get the women's game in from 4, you can make that and then go across the street to the box. A&M.
Buy the tickets. Go to the game.
Yeah.
Go support this women's team.
And then you got St. Patty's Day parade Saturday morning as well.
This is the way it was in the men's tournament in the 80s, and I was there when Anthony Wilson picked the ball up off the floor. I was there with Tom Faraday and another buddy of mine, Scott LeBlanc, and we were there, and that was the night.
Dana Kirk gave Dale Brown the dead fish handshake as he beat him.
That was the loudest it's ever been.
Yeah. And, if you remember, the NCAA shortly thereafter changed it where they did not want home teams to be able to, so they started moving around.
But that was actually fun.
Oh, that was incredible.
I mean, I went to Kyle Macy, Kentucky games. I mean, I was at all those biggies. That game was the loudest I've ever heard.
And you and I used to have fun when they'd have the
Tiger come down on the rope.
Tiger come down the rope with the meter, the decibel meter. Remember?
I would like to know where that's at.
I don't know.
Do you think it got destroyed?
I have no idea.
I would think some bar. If that meter exists somewhere, it's probably in a warehouse at LSU. Wouldn't some bar love to have that hanging from a ceiling if they got a tall roof?
You know who else did something unprecedented this year? Jay Clark and the LSU gymnastics team, #1 in attendance this year, over 11,000. So kudos to him. But the loudest the Pete Maravich Assembly Center has been is with gymnastics, believe it or not. So we had mentioned them. Beth Tarina beat Alabama 2 out of 3 in softball. Lots going on for you Tiger fans.
Kenny Futch, I wouldn't be opposed to Jerome Tang taking the LSU men's basketball job. Again, that's a whole deal where, man, I'm telling you, I talk to Baylor people regularly, and there's not good blood between the Baylor men's team and when Mulkey was there. I don't know.
Look, I just think right now it's early. We know Woodward has a short list, and we know he's probably already doing his legwork. But what do we also know, Mike? Other than Mulkey, and the only reason that was more predictable because she told some of the people that were in Louisiana, I'm coming home. But Jay Johnson was out of the blue, and so was Brian Kelly. So if you want to go play cards with Scott Woodward, go ahead, but you better have a lot of money because he holds them pretty tight to the vest.
Leonard Sarasota, Woodward should go get Andy Kennedy, who's currently having success at UAB. Plenty of experience in the SEC from his Ole Miss days. A proven winner would bring some class back to LSU basketball.
Andy is a guy that has been up and down, and I think once again probably shooting higher than that. Although that would be a stable. Well, once again, you made an excellent remark earlier. What's in it to entice the next guy to come? Okay, yeah, you can say Bob Pettit and and Pete Maravich and Shaq and Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and all the other legendary Tigers. And you can say, man, I want to bring back the PMAC to life and the Death Dome like Will Wade did at times. But without knowing the extent of these sanctions and this roster, I just think it's hard to project right now who he's going to get.
Yeah. It's I put together a list, but I just think it's silly. And I guarantee you the lists that are out there now, I don't think any of them have it right.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them. I'd be surprised if somebody's got who's going to be actually on the list.
Yeah. Well, like I said, Woodward keeps a very, and Jay Johnson doesn't show his hand either, especially with pitching matchups. But Woody has proven that he's a pretty good poker player.
This LSU baseball team's been fun to watch, but they do make you nervous with the pitching. You never know what you're going to get. Who's going to have it? Who's going to be able to give you more than a few innings? But definitely need to get money back. So we'll see.
Well, they're hitting .319, and they've got 26 dingers. They're 14-3 overall. And quite frankly, what is disturbing is that the majority of their big-time stats have been accrued against weaker competition. Now, I had Ben McDonald on today. Of course, him and Todd Walker do a great job with me keeping us up to date with the SEC and other teams. Mike, as always, 6 SEC teams in the top 15. LSU has fluctuated. They came out really high, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and now in the teens, whatever. But it's irrelevant with the polls. But Ben was saying that, last year you had Kumar Rocker and all these pitchers with Vanderbilt and Florida and all. Already a lot of Tommy John injuries to starting pitchers. Mississippi State's lost a couple. Arkansas has lost their ace. And so Javen Coleman is out for the foreseeable future, maybe the whole year. So once again, he's saying that it's going to be an offensive-minded league. I think they're going to have to win more games 7-5 than 5-3 this year, which is exciting. But can you get that guy? Devin Fontenot's got to get right. He's been up and down. But Eric Raiselman, if you hadn't seen him, bringing it 95-98, and that is exciting to have a flamethrower at the end of the game.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks to Pride Roofing. Go to TigerBait and subscribe. We want to have you on board with us. We're going to be bringing you so much when spring football practice starts next week. And, of course, we'll be back with another show next week. Not sure what night. We got to look at how everything plays out after the dust settles on the weekend. But we'll be back here for another show and a lot of practice reports and so forth starting next Thursday. So hit the subscribe button. Go to TigerBait and subscribe, and we'll be back here as soon as you can blink. Good night, guys. Thank you.